Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Friday Facebook Live and Instagram Live. Today we're going to go over about top 3 mistakes you're making with sugar-free sweeteners, how to use them. I've got some quick ones to show you. It's just going to be quick 3 tips this week. You know, I always like to give you little tips. So as always, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is and what sweetener do you like. Is it stevia? Is it erythritol? Is it xylitol? Which sweetener do you like? I'd love to know in the comments below, because you know I always love to see anything there, and if you've got any questions. So hello to Facebook and hello to Instagram, and I'm sorry if I swap in between there. And last week we talked about how to start low carb fast, and I gave you a free meal plan to get you started. Today I've got for you the Chaffle cookbook. So Chaffles are cheesy waffles, if no one's ever made them before, and they are the easiest recipe on the planet, and they are the easiest recipe for if you're just starting into low carb baking. If you just got regular, all my recipes are made with regular grocery items anyway, but everyone seems to have cheese and eggs in their fridge. And with the recipe book I'm giving you today, there is basic chaffles. There's pizza chaffles, breakfast chaffles, cheeseburger chaffles, garlic bread, tomato, jalapeno, chocolate, vanilla, blueberry, ginger, orange, you name it, it's all there. So the link is above, and I'm just going to quickly show you on Facebook what I'm giving away. And Instagram you can't see here, but head over, it'll be front page. You just go into the website and you search for Chaffles and you'll see this book. So it's got all the recipes you could ever need. So we'll crack on here, but like I say, let me know where you're watching from, and let me see here the comments and there we go. Let me know where you're watching from and what sweetener do you guys like to use. And I should have introduced myself. I'm Libby. I'm the founder of ditchthecarbs.com, Ditch the Carbs Pro, low carb practitioners. I'm a mum of 3, and I'm a registered, no longer practicing, but a registered pharmacist. So I am busy. So my mission is simple, is to make low carb and keto as easy and healthy and as affordable and delicious for the family as possible. Hi Chris, you're here from Coffs Harbour in Australia. How are you guys going in there? So I've just got to move that to get, there we go. So how are you guys going in Australia at the moment, and what is your best sugar-free sweetener? So what I'm going to do is show you some sweeteners, going to explain which ones I like to use. And I'm not sponsored by any, you know, I'm the only, I think, blogger, website owner that refuses sponsored posts. I don't do that, so you can trust what I have to say. But I'm going to show you what I use, and all of these things are either available in Australia, New Zealand, and the States, because the States is where the majority of people who watch me from. So I've got all of the questions there for you there. So tell me which sweetener you like to. Oh, and somebody has said they use erythritol. And hello from Bahamas, you like erythritol, somebody likes monk fruit, stevia. Well, I've got all of those I can show you. And Shah is like stevia. Oh, here's C from Vancouver. Nice to hear, darling. C's one of our pro members. So if you want to join us in the 4-week quick start, come and join us. It's absolutely brilliant, and there's a link above for you. So this is a very quick version of what I teach in the pro thing, but all I'm going to show you is the quick sweeteners that I use. So the one that most people, especially Americans, will see, and Canadians, is Swerve. That is just plain erythritol. The 2 main sweeteners you can use is erythritol or stevia. Erythritol measures spoon for spoon in place of sugar. It's a little bit less sweet, so you have to kind of adjust it to your sweet tooth. But erythritol is the one that most people start off with and most people use. There are different factors why then people decide to choose longer term to a different sweetener, but erythritol is the one that most people use. It's not absorbed and it doesn't raise your blood sugars for the majority of the people. And I always have to give a caveat. Some people have said it still raises their blood sugars. Now, we will never know whether it was the erythritol that raised their blood sugars or what the baking that they actually had it in raised the blood sugars. But if really strict blood sugar control is imperative to you, always test with any kind of sweetener. So the 2 are mainly erythritol and stevia. Stevia is 400 times sweeter than sugar, so it has to be diluted with something for you to use it in your baking. So it's either diluted in some drops or you can get it in a very fine powder. But with some of the powders, be really careful, because some of them dilute the stevia with dextrose, which is a sugar. So you don't want to use those. Other people dilute it in other diluents, which aren't so great. So always read the labels. And I would say ignore the fluff and the wonder on the front of a packet. Always go to the nutrition label and see what the ingredients are, see what the carb values are. And some of you may see that with erythritol and some of the sugar alcohols, the carb value is quite high, but it doesn't count because it's not absorbed. And always the test for you is test your blood sugars after you've had some and see if it actually affects you. So there's erythritol and stevia, and I'm seeing other people are saying, yep, monk fruit. Erythritol makes me itch all over. Yep, and it can. Some people find erythritol makes them itch. It can all sweeteners can give you maybe a tummy upset, so just be careful with that, especially xylitol and maltitol, which will tell you why you need to avoid maltitol later. Do not have anything with maltitol. And it's all of those low-carb bars and the keto bars and the protein shakes. A lot of them contain maltitol, and avoid those, so don't have those. You can see why I'm not sponsored, because I'm being very brutally honest about what you should and shouldn't have. Oh, and Valley's Virgin of Splendor, and hello from Brazil. Oh, it's lovely to see you guys. So, erythritol. That's the one that most people use. This is from the States. Now, this is the confectioner's one, so that's like a powder. So that's what I would use in maybe an icing or a frosting or a fat bomb, or something where I want a smooth texture like my peanut butter cups, or something just where you want smooth. If you can't get the confectioners, don't worry, you can get the granulated form and just put it maybe in your coffee grinder and it turns into powder. So that's what most people use this measure spoon for spoon. Now, in New Zealand and Australia, and I think you can get this in the UK as well, so either you can see that on Instagram, that's the Natvia, and that is, excuse me, that is erythritol and stevia mix. So because, and that measures spoon for spoon, so because erythritol is a little bit less sweet than sugar, then you might sometimes, it depends on your taste, have to use a little bit more. And stevia is stronger than sugar. By having a blend, it actually works them well. So that's the one I tend to use. And like I say, you can get that in New Zealand, Australia, and I think in the UK, and I think you can get it on my Amazon store. Somebody else has said about monk fruit. That's another good option. Again, it doesn't raise your blood sugar, but with all of these, check out how you react to this, and that's also got stevia in it, but there are so many brands. Then you get onto the stevia, and this is one of my top mistakes, so I'm going to teach you 3 mistakes. Stevia, some people love it, some people hate it. I personally don't like to use it, because if you over sweeten a recipe, this is number 1, if you use too much stevia, that's when you can get a bitter, metallic aftertaste. And that's when people say, oh, your baking doesn't work, it's really bitter. And I say, what sweetener did you use? And they go, oh, I used the stevia drops, it wasn't sweet enough, so I added more. And that's the mistake. If you add too much of the drops, then you'll get this bitter, horrible, it's kind of, like I say, it's a metallic taste. It's not very nice at all. So don't use that. But other people love it. Like, say, for example, these are butterscotch ones, and my daughter loves using this in her coffee. So I've had that. I bought that off iHerb, and if you want a discount code, I've got one of those. But iHerb, I even get them delivered here in New Zealand with free delivery if you kind of play around with the quantities that you buy. And so that's great if you want a little drink. For baking, I don't like it. Other people love it. So you do you, and you find what works. And that's another one. That's a vanilla one you can buy. And then that's a pure one, which is very, very strong. And some will say that 5 drops is equal to a teaspoon. Another one will say that 20 drops is equal to a teaspoon. Other one, like this one, doesn't say at all actually how many drops are equivalent to a teaspoon of sugar. So always read your labels. The first mistake people make with sweeteners is they use too much stevia and then they wonder why it's bitter. Stevia will give you a bitter aftertaste. Number 2 is not testing before you bake. So on all of my recipes, I give you a value of the sweetener that I think will adjust for most people. But the hardest thing to get right when you're doing low-carb baking is what works for you. So say, for example, I've been on my sugar-free journey now for 7 years, so I don't need much sweetener at all. In fact, in my granola, I don't use any sweetener anymore. But for you, if you're starting out, you might need 2 or 3 times the amount of sweetener that I suggest. I would say sweetener or more to taste. So you find out the sweetener that works for you and the volume of sweetener. So always test before baking. And if the third thing is if you, sorry, that I've got third mistake people make, if to rescue a low-carb baking, if it turns out and it's not sweet enough for you, you can always rescue it by serving it with sweetened whipped cream or sweetened pouring cream or something. You can make a chocolate ganache to go with it, a sugar-free one, so that it still hits your kind of sweet taste buds if that's what you're craving. Then the third mistake you will be making is not reading the label for how much to use. So say, for example, these ones are spoon for spoon in place of sugar. This one, for example, is double strength. So that's another one that I can buy in New Zealand. And it says here that half a teaspoon is equivalent to the sweetness of 1 teaspoon of sugar. So if you use that and you used, say, of what I said in my recipes, you would find the recipe to be over-sweetened. And that's a good, like I say, different brands will have different quantities to how much you need for replacing for sugar. So the 3 top mistakes you'll be making is adding too much stevia, it will be bitter. Not testing before baking because you need to add it to your taste. And number 3 is not reading the labels. So that's my 3 top tips to you. And that's the Chaffle cookbook that I'm giving away. And on Instagram, there'll be a link for you in the highlights buttons as soon as I get off. And for Facebook, there'll be a link, and YouTube, there'll also be a link down below. So I always have to point different ways depending on what device and which part you're watching me on. So let me see who else is watching. Someone says, my partner has a severe reaction to erythritol. Yeah, Maria, some people can. Some people find they get some, now said that they mentioned they got itchy skin. Other people find it's got, because it's a sugar alcohol, you get a cooling effect in your mouth, and especially with xylitol as well. And the one caveat I'll give everybody, if you use xylitol, it's great, but it is toxic to animals, especially dogs. And it's not toxic to us, it's toxic to them, because for some reason it gives an insulin release and suddenly they get hypoglycemia. And so you don't want that for your animals. So if you make any baking, it's absolutely fine to use. But if you've got animals, don't feed them any of your low-carb baking, because that will be toxic to them. So it's fine for us to use. That's always a little warning I always have to give out. And the other warning I was going to remind everyone about is don't use maltitol, because even though if you picked up, say, a low-carb bar or a keto bar, and it's why I'm not sponsored by it and I refuse sponsorship, is because I think the majority are really poor and really bad. And I don't like them because they're quite deceitful in their marketing. They look at the label and said 1 gram of net carbs. And then when you look around to the nutrition label, it will have maltitol, and they reduce them or remove the maltitol from the carb count. But it does count because it still raises your blood pressure. So always be a label reading ninja and ignore the fluff and wonder on the front of a packet, and always go to the nutrition label. People hate me saying that, but it's true. So yes, some people can have a reaction to erythritol, and like I say, even though these don't raise your blood sugars, for some people it can. So I always say, especially if you're a type 1 diabetic or a type 2, and you've got to have imperative, beautiful, you're following your blood sugars because you've got to medicate or anything like that, always test your blood sugars. It's a brilliant, brilliant way also to see if a cafe has served you something which they say this is sugar-free, or they'll put the sugar-free caramel syrup in your coffee. Always test your blood sugars, and that's how you can tell, the best $30 you'll ever spend, that's how you can tell whether they have used, because some people don't. They say they're going to put the sugar-free caramel syrup in, and they don't. Let me see it. Awesome tips. That's from Wendy. Oh, I'm glad you like them. Always ask me things. I love asking Q&As. Somebody says, what about allulose? Yeah, that's a new sweetener that's come out to the market. I personally haven't been able to find any, so I haven't had a chance to use it, but other people have reported great success. Someone said she's been mixing 2/3 of allulose with 1/3 of xylitol. That's great, Dawn. If that's what you've been using, go for it. And like I say, always test your blood sugars. I used to keep my blood sugar. I used food to keep my blood sugar, and a lot of these sweeteners still shoot up my sugars, even though it says 0 calorie. Okay, so Wendy, have a look at what the sugar is in. So if you're doing baking yourself, obviously you know all of the ingredients that go in. If you're buying like a low sugar bar or a low carb bar, a keto bar, a shake, or you're going to a cafe, always test, because a lot of them will be sneaky and they would know. Say, for example, where's the ingredients? Say, for example, in the ingredients labels, they rate all the sugars from the highest quantity down to the lowest. So if they put in just sugar or whatever sweetener it is, if they put in, it's going to go up a number 1. If they use a variety of 3 or 4, suddenly they go way down the list. So that's called confusion marketing. And so have a look all the way down the list and look for every single sweetener that's in there, because if you're using sugar-free things or a lot of the sweeteners and you think they'll keep your blood sugar stable and they're not, there will be something in there. So become like a label reading ninja. Oh, hi Yvonne, how are you, darling? I like Swerve. Stevie can have a bitter aftertaste. Absolutely. And LaDonna says allulose and xylitol are the best, and to keep homemade ice cream soft to scoop. Absolutely. And a little bit of vodka, if anyone can have vodka, that helps keep homemade ice cream. It stops the crystals as well. There we go. Lecanto works great for me, and somebody else is waving this. It's nice to see, but that's in Instagram there. So that is my top tips for you, my 3 top tips. Number 1, people using too much stevia and it will become bitter. Number 2 is not tasting your baking before you actually put it in the oven, or you're making ice cream, putting it in the fridge, in the freezer. Number 3 is not reading labels and making sure you know what the quantity is. Like I say, some will be 5 drops per spoon, some who knows, because they don't actually put it on their label. And then that's the Chaffle handbook that I'm giving away today. There is 23 sweet and savoury recipes for you. There is pizza chaffles, breakfast, cheeseburger, chili taco, garlic bread, jalapeno, chocolate chaffles, cinnamon chaffles, orange chaffles, ginger, lemon, pumpkin, blueberry, double chocolate, you name it, and even a mocha one. So the link is above to Facebook. I'll quickly show you that now if I can bring my cursor over. There we go on Facebook, I'm just showing you. But on Instagram, you'll have to go to my little link. And there's all of the chaffle cookbook there for you, because if you watch my last week's one, throughout the year, I'm kind of slowly going through. It was a really quick Facebook Live to show you how to start low carb fast. This is a little one about sweeteners, and like I said, this is a little taste of how I teach you in the 4-week quick start, and it's open. I'd love you to join us because I have some of the pro members here watching us and they absolutely love it. And I teach you everything. We have 5 modules. There's 34 video lessons. There's handbooks. There's a bonus. There's a 5-day meal plan in there. And later on in the year, you heard it here first, I am starting a meal planning service, and all pro members get it free. So get in there first before I change my mind. It won't be starting for a couple of months, but you will be getting it in pro. And Ditch the Carbs, the 4-week quick start, I teach you absolutely everything. I teach you a full lesson about sweeteners. I teach you about baking. I teach you about how to use almond flour, coconut flour, how to order out when you're, to stay low carb, how to eat out with friends, how to snack smarter, how to do fasting, how to test your ketones. You name it, I cover absolutely everything. So I'd love to spend more time with you and join me in the 4-week quick start. And I'll put a link up there for you. Oh, and Tana, hi, how are you, darling? Love the chaffles. They are amazing. They're a really good lifesaver, especially for lunch boxes. We've just started lunch boxes again because schools have gone back. And if you're ever in a bind and you don't know what to make for a lower carb lunchbox, I've got lots of people who are either lower carb, sugar-free or keto kids. Chaffles are a lifesaver. You can make them, get your kids to make them, honestly, get them to do it. And they freeze really well. And I generally make the basic chaffle. And then in between, I might put some tomato paste, some mozzarella cheese, some pepperoni, and whatever is in there. One child might like some mushrooms. One child might like extra pepperoni. They might like some spring onions or some other onions in there. There's lots of yummy things you can. So they're great for work. They're great for breakfast, lunch, a snack. I love, love, love chaffles, so go and get that. Oh, and someone says, Rona, I only put 10 grams of erythritol in a batch of keto scones. Will that small amount cause an itch? It could do. A lot of people tend to find that they get this itch. I've never had it, but some people do. So if erythritol doesn't work for you, maybe go to either xylitol, maybe go to stevia, maybe go to monk fruit. Find one that works for you. On Highvine, you're in the USA. Oh, bless, Hayley, love your website, and we're so stoked to see where you're from, NZ. It's funny, I went to a meeting a while ago, and it was all about low carb. It was a seminar they wanted me to talk to, and they said, oh my goodness, I never realised that Ditch the Carbs was from New Zealand. They thought it was an American website, and I said, no, I'm here in New Zealand, but for some reason, about, I think 80% of my readers are from the US, and I would think probably 80% in my pro group are from the US, and I love it. And my team who work with me, they're all in the US as well, so it's a very international, I think we truly are an international group here, and it's a lovely little community that we have. And like I said, we just have people from the Bahamas, from USA, from Belgium, from Bruges. We've had, honestly, the most amazing variety of areas we have here. I order yours from Belgium, but maybe it's only available over here. So, okay, so that might be the sweetness. All of these, if you go to my website and you put iHerb in the search bar, there's a discount code for you, and you can buy any sweetener anywhere in the world. I even get it sent free here in New Zealand when I order them. I do like an order maybe once every couple of months, and then these things like that you can't buy in New Zealand, but I tend to get it here through iHerb, and my discount code I think is 5 or 10%. So that's really, really yummy. But all these other ones you can get around the world. Like I say, that's available in New Zealand, Australia, and the UK, I think. And they've also brought out a monk fruit one, and then these ones are in the US, and you can also get those. So you can get them all everywhere, and your country will have different things, different every place. Oh, bless you. Hi, Sue. Morning, Libby from South Aussie. Oh, and Tana, your recipes are fantastic because you can select cups and ounces for those of us who are metric. Absolutely. And if you go into my recipes, you will see there'll be metric and imperial. So you can use either grams, or you can do ounces, or you can do grams and cups, because I try to cover everybody in our little global village. And then also you can go and you can see the quantity. So if you're only cooking for 1 or you're cooking for 6, you can adjust the quantity. So throw away your calculator. You don't need to calculate. It's all calculated for you. So if you want to make fathead pizza for 3, or you want to make it for 20, there's a little slider and you can do that as well. So it's lovely to see everybody here. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Go and get your Chaffle cookbook or join us in Ditch the Carbs Pro. I would absolutely love to spend more time with you guys. So have a fabulous, fabulous week, and now I have to figure out exactly how to get out of here. So if you've got any questions, leave them below, and I'll be here for the next 20 minutes or so answering your questions. So have a fabulous, fabulous week. Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.